Ready. We have some people joining us remotely as well, but we'll go ahead and get started. We have with us South Dakota Coyotes, Travis Johansson, head coach, Charles Barrett Jr., running back. And we'll start with an opening statement, Coach, about fall camping starting next week and your thoughts on your season.
Yeah, I think first of all, we're excited to be here. What an awesome event to be a part of in-person media day. We've had an unbelievable spring and summer. I think like everybody, it's been responses to tumultuous things that kind of go down this time of year, but we feel incredibly blessed to be where we're at right now. Got a good football team. It's had an excellent summer. Fall camp, we report 29th. We'll start practice on the 30th and all downhill to an opener at Iowa State on August 30th. So I think all in all, we've got an excellent group coming back, still returners. We brought today, we announced our captains last week. That'll be on defense, Tim White and Wade Abrams. And then on offense, that's who we brought with us, Dave Bauman and Charles Pierre. And I think most people know those two names. But ultimately, ready to go and excited about our 25 campaign.
Great. We'll start with questions from this room. And if you have a question, just raise your hand. Fire one.
Coach, what has the process been like for you? Obviously, taking over as the head coach, you got some new coordinators, new position coaches. What's been the process just trying to get everybody on the same page for this thing to be ready to go in fall camp?
Yeah, I think ultimately every move we made was to try and have continuity every step of the way. I think it's the most important thing we're doing in college football right now. Those who can retain and keep continuity all together have a chance to continue to build what they built. In no way, shape, or form do we have a program that was broken and needed me to come in and change a bunch of things. Been part of that process, obviously, for the better part of the last 6 years, and really confident in how we do things and how we've done things. So each one of our hires, whether it was taking over my vacated seat or when Coach Davis moved on and elevating people within the program, is 100% about keeping the continuity and structure in the way we've done and keep our systems in place. And I feel like we've done an excellent job of doing that. High level of confidence in all those coaches and players to accomplish what we've done more.
Jeff Kolpak from the Forum in Fargo. A lot of newness in the league this year, although you're not new to the league. What's your sense of how things have changed over here last year?
I think ultimately there's a lot of opportunity. I think for every program right now, there's a big question mark in every program, whether it's through graduation, through retention in the portal, additions, subtractions, coaches. I think we all see it as kind of a blank slate. How is this going to go? And I think the teams that can, focus, stay internal, and improve throughout the season. I think we're going to see a season that's going to find teams that are playing their best at the end of the year, the ones that are going to be in the hunt for this. Maybe not those that are playing their best at the beginning. So ultimately, with all the change, I think brings a ton of opportunity. We certainly see it that way.
You describe the challenge of the offensive line in the offseason.
Well, yeah, it's interesting, right? Like I think externally, when you look at, you lose two tackles that were probably NFL bound, and really our fifth O lineman. With big holes to fill. I think we've done an excellent job over the years of recruiting the position, developing the position. We obviously brought in a number of transfers, mainly to compete for those jobs and depth. But we've got guys in our roster we feel really confident that, because they got the volume of reps in the spring with those guys not there, continued volume in the summer with player-led practice, what they'll get in this fall camp. We may not have counted on them as second-year players if we still have those guys, but more than capable to fill those shoes and some. We need to get them online as fast as possible and think we can do that.
Yeah, Charles, more of a dual running back system last year, kind of stepping into a larger role, maybe a bigger workload, kind of have prepared for that.
We're obviously working with Travis last season. It was a split carry system, but being the main back, I think last year prepared me to take on this new step. And like I said, the other running backs in the room, we have a lot of depth. So we compete every single day. So it's just next man up mentality. So that's what really prepared me for it.
Coach, Sam Herder with Hero Sports. With this new kind of post-house era of college football, scholarship limits, revenue sharing, do you think that could increase the the level of parity in the FCS, or potentially could it widen the gap? What do you kind of think?
Well, I think it does level the playing field a little bit, depending on who you are, right? I think for years, to generate revenue within programs and maybe not as affecting us as much, you got to be able to sell at your stadiums, have bigger venues. You know, your brand had to push that quite a bit. You know, third party NIL wasn't going to be a part of moving programs necessarily. But at this point, you know, there's the way to generate revenue can come from a lot of different ways. And I think if you have access to people and revenue like that, it's going to inevitably help programs if you decide to go that route with it. So I think there's a lot of benefits. I think A1 for the student athlete in a way that makes sense and doesn't maybe deter from the fabric of what we're trying to accomplish as a really you know, all encompassing in college football. I think we've lost that to a certain extent, but now that those rules are kind of settling down and in place, and we all know it'll be continued litigation with this thing, but ultimately I think the spirit of what we tried to accomplish 5 years ago with name, image, likeness is getting closer back to that, which will benefit student athletes not only monetarily, but give them a place where they can stay at home for their 4 or 5 years.
Charles, there, you know, a lot of opinions out there about the state of college football and how wild it is. As a player, what are your thoughts on the state of college football? Do you pay attention to all this craziness, or you guys just focus on your locker room and just play football?
Yeah, as a player, I'm not really too worried about it. You know, I'm just worried about the upcoming season and what the team is going to do. So that doesn't really cross my mind as much. We just worry about putting our head down and working.
Travis, you took over a program that had national championship expectations even before all the player departures during the spring. I would assume those expectations haven't changed, but do you really start to feel that pressure that it's kind of national championship or bust this season for USD?
Yeah, I mean, that's where we want to be. Our aspirations haven't changed. The expectations and you know, to be honest, the potential of our program hasn't changed, and that's what we're setting out to do. Yeah, nothing that happened in the offseason deters us or degraded from any confidence we have internally. I never want to be a part of anything. These players don't want to be a part of something that's not chasing the very best. That's what we're doing. And, you know, we've shown to be able to beat every single team in this country at any point in time. We need to do it for the entirety of the entire system and through the entire season and through the playoffs. That's our challenge, right? It isn't the ceiling, it's the consistency of that ceiling. And we've got a good, mature group of leaders that I think I know will push us in that direction. We've got a lot of work to do until then, but yeah, the pressure of it, there's no pressure. You know, it's really internally, we can probably put more pressure on ourselves than anybody.
Got a lot of starting quarterbacks back. You have one.
That gives us confidence. Yeah. You know, we won't, you know, put the crown on him in any capacity because he won't do it for himself. But Aiden Bauman is a special player. You know, we all know him, Charles, the leadership of our group that are on kind of a national level. They could have gone and played in other places and chosen those routes, and we understand what their value is to USD and their loyalty to this place. I think we all feel that, and we're chasing things that are bigger than the dollar. And I think collectively that's why this will go, people like that. And yeah, he's pretty darn talented. But I think more than anything, he's selfless. He's a great leader. He believes in the collective team football that we play. And it's never about him. It never has been. So he'll be a 4-year starter and a 2-time captain and a multiple All-American. And yeah, that gives us a little bit of confidence moving into the season.
To kind of piggyback off that, something you said at the beginning of the rest of your coach, sorry, Alex Kinkle, Jackrabbit Illustrated, talked about the departure of Josh Davis and how rehiring a coordinator there. Is that something you've really relied on Aiden or even Charles here to kind of feedback of, hey, here's some things we did last couple of years you liked, here's some things we did to rebuild that playbook, kind of get that player input, or have you really relied on your new staff to do some of that?
Well, it's not a new staff. I've known Josh Davis and I went back 25 years. And so when we first hired him, his ability to go and get the coaches that he wanted and that we have mutual connections with, and that staff was built 2 years ago. We kept that same group. Tim Morrison is our offensive coordinator. Tim Morrison's been doing it a long time. And what we did and how we did it over the last couple of years with Josh and Tim really being heavily involved in our run game, That won't change. And so systematically, terminology wise, none of that is getting flipped over. And so I think more than anything, we've got some coaches in place that might have been coaching out of position. Matt Bitsum is a quarterback coach at heart. He's our co-offensive coordinator, was coaching receivers while Coach Davis was with us. Now Coach Bitsum will slide in that quarterback room with Aiden, and it's a completely different picture as far as your expertise playing the position, coaching the position over all those years. Coach Davis was a wide receiver guy. I mean, obviously, you guys know the background, right? He wasn't a quarterback guy. So schematically, to teach, unless you played the position, it's I'm not getting in the way of the quarterbacks. I'll say that right now. Evaluating them, anything, outside of their mentality, how they're wired, I'm out of the way. Matt Bitsum is an expert at that, and I think we're seeing some things really pay off for Aiden that way too. And the rest of our staff has guys that have played in prominent roles in those spots. So a lot of carryover. And so there isn't a big deal, but our players are certainly have a level of mastery in what we're doing, and guys like Charles and Aiden, when they see something, it isn't for selfish reasons. It's because they understand our stuff holistically.
Thank you.
You bet.
You're going to have a lot of pretty open position battles when you head to fall camp, especially with some of the additions that weren't there in the spring. How do you want to see some of those younger guys or newer guys in the program handle themselves, which will be such a fierce competition for so many position groups? What do you want to see them do over the next 5 to 6 weeks as we get toward the season?
I think at the end of the day, they got to execute what we're doing. And they've got to be able to, we look at it, can you carry over? A lot of guys can do things in the weight room from a movement perspective, right? Then can you put it technically into individual work? Then can you move into the periods of 7-on-7 and inside run all the way until it's you're at a game day, and then what are the stakes on the game? Can you do it in the national semifinals? Can you do it in the national title game, right? So how fast we can get them to those positions, they're not battling each other, they're battling themselves. And we can't create game day, and we can't create games with big stakes on the line. That's going to happen within the season. But we've got to put some of those young guys in live environments. This guy probably doesn't need a bunch of live carries. Unfortunately for him, he won't be getting them. He'll probably be bummed out about that. But yeah, the rest of those guys, we've got to have a pretty physical, a competitive camp that maybe we wouldn't have had a year ago with so many vets. So got to create game day, and they have to perform in those settings.
Charles, with a lot of the new faces, how well would you say you guys have meshed so far over the summer?
I think for it to be as many people as we did bring in, I think we very close. Like we get closer every single year, and we just went on a trip to Rapid City. We had no phones for the whole weekend, so it forced us to bond together. But the thing about it was, it didn't matter if we had our phones or not because we bond anyway. So that trip was just a reminder of how close the team actually was. We do a lot of team activities outside of facilities, and I think that's what's going to separate us from a lot of teams is how close we are as a team.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, in this new day and age college football, it seems kind of hard to keep a locker room together with someone like you or Aiden, who are really those leaders in that locker room. How do you bring some of those newer guys together to really get acclimated to the program, acclimated to the locker room, and build that camaraderie, like you mentioned, so quickly before the season comes around?
I think the biggest thing is just understanding that we're all people outside of football. I think sometimes the athletes get it all that are just football players, but we make sure that they're heard and known outside of the walls, whether it's giving them a ride to the store or hanging out and get something to eat. I think that's the biggest thing, is just letting you know you care about them as a person. And then once you do that, hang out all the time. You just get real close.
What'd you do in Rapid City?
We hiked, we climbed the mountain, and we competed, and we just had a great time together.
Coach, when recruiting the transfer portal this offseason, did you notice more talent in the portal this offseason, or was it pretty on par with previous offseasons?
We've been so limited to the amount that we've done in years past. I think I think like always, there's a lot of talent. It's what you have access to by the end of the day. I felt really confident in the guys that we were able to bring in. We've done a pretty good job in the portal in the past, mainly finding like-minded people. Their situation may have not put them statistically in a really shiny category, pulling them out, and naturally that's what's going to happen at the FCS level. But to Charles's point, part of this is making sure you're building a team, guys that can fit in your locker room, that can acclimate in your campus, that can live in Vermilion, that love football. And I think we've done an excellent job at that. They fit in tremendously. Absolutely have enhanced our locker room in a lot of ways because of their selflessness. And I think if anything, we saw more of an influx of that because of the circumstances in which a lot of guys decided to make that move and our needs. We were able to not take a step back in character 1 second, which I think say one when you're trying to navigate that. But from a talent perspective, pretty talented guys. I think we had access.
You look at the schedule, thing that jumps out is no open week until the end of the season. How do you try to manage that in this league and just playing, as physical as what this team has the last few years?
Yeah, that was a shocker when I first kind of started thinking about the 25 season. I went, how did North Dakota State get a bye right before us? And we moved out of the way so they could play St. Thomas at the end of the year. To be honest, when I was in the NAIA and we won national title in 2013, we played a schedule straight through. Had a bye week at the end of your year. Really, we had 2 byes with 14 days between the end of the season when we played our first playoff game. So, I think we've trained like that all year. We're not hiding from that. That doesn't matter. A bye week is 3 days off. You're back at it anyways. You're working most of that week. We'll be smart about, our ability to keep guys fresh all year. We would have done that anyways. So, yeah, I mean, it's, you navigate it without a bye and you deal with it. That's just what our league is what it is. We're going to see them all and we're going to play them all and nobody's going to, care. Nobody says, hey, but they didn't have a bye that year. So we're mentally prepared to go handle that. I think what we're looking forward to is if we can position ourselves, at the end of the year in a spot where we're lucky enough to be in the playoffs, or be in the seed conversation that you can back up whether you get a seed and you get a bye week there, or you don't get a seed, or whether you get a seed and you got 2 weeks to get healthy and do some different things, maybe schematically to give some people problems. We'll take our advantage of that. So we've got a lot of work to do, but it's a challenge. But one I think we're very much up for.
Time for one last question before we bring our next team. So one last question from the audience here.
Brendan Licky, Jackrabbit Illustrated. This could be for either one of you guys. With the top 2, roadblocks in the conference, so to speak, with the South Dakota State, North Dakota State breaking in new quarterbacks, all tumult going on at South Dakota State with coaching roster change. But you guys have returning, Charles being arguably the best running back in the country, plus 8 being the best quarterback in the conference returning. Does it feel like probably your best chance at making a run at a national title to you guys, or do you look at it that way?
I wouldn't say that. I think those 2 teams have had tremendous, obviously, history. North Dakota State, obviously A1 in our league, and what the Jacks have done as of late. Every time we've played both those teams, we've never felt for the last however many years that we've got beat since we've gotten, last year, what an incredible game in Brookings. I don't think we left feeling like we didn't have a chance to win that game. Certainly felt like we might have left one on the table. Even back in the 19-day and 21 days, I mean, it's always a game that we know we can win. North Dakota State, we beat them 2 of the last 3 times we played them. We need to do it when the time calls for us to do it. We belong in that conversation. I think we put ourselves in that conversation. But certainly those are the cream of the crop and who we want to compete against, right? I think that's the main deal. We want to be peers to the very top of the country. But as far as everything going on in their programs, we got our own stuff to worry about, frankly. We do. They've got good players, good quarterback. They'll always reload. But we got a high level of confidence in Aiden and Charles to lead us towards that regardless.
Coach Charles, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.